My topic is essentially around climbing Mount Everest. So for those of you who don't know, I in last 10 years, about 10 years ago, I realized that one of the biggest dreams of my life was climbing Mount Everest. And so I went on this transformational journey, and I eventually ended up climbing Everest a couple of times. Once in 2016 from the Nepal side, and then once in 2019 from the Tibet side. And so basically, my topic for today is I'm of course going to talk a little bit about Mount Everest, but what I'm going to talk about is how do you prepare to climb or prepare yourself to get ready to climb something like Mount Everest. Now, in 2009, when I first decided that climbing Everest was the biggest dream of my life, I have to tell you what my physical fitness or what my physical conditioning was. Just to give you a sense, I was about 110 kilos. I would think that my body fat was easily about 32 or 33 percent. In terms of my resting heart rate would easily be about 81 or 82. Now, in terms of my fitness itself, practically for almost 2 years prior to 2010, I was like literally a couch potato. So I had never done anything around fitness. Coming from a Gujarati community, I have to tell you that no one in my community even likes climbing one floor, forget climbing mountains. So that is the kind of fitness background I had before I decided that I wanted to climb Mount Everest. And this whole idea that I wanted to climb Everest was just something that I was really lucky to find out that it was my dream. So I'm not going to spend too much time telling you all those stories, but what I'm going to spend time is how did I prepare. Now, when I found my dream and when I came home, I still remember a question that I had asked my expedition leader. I had asked him, what is the secret behind climbing Mount Everest? This is a guy, his name is Tim Rippel. Tim is a Canadian expedition leader, and he has about 25 years of track record of putting people on top of Mount Everest. And I had asked him, Tim, what's the secret behind climbing Mount Everest? And he gave me basically two answers. His first answer was, to climb to the top of the world, you need a top of the world mind and you need a top of the world body. So it was very clear that when you are in the top shape of your life, both physically and mentally, that is the right time to go and climb Mount Everest. And then in a very specific detailed fashion, I asked him, what are the 3 tips that you would give to anyone for climbing Mount Everest? And his answer was cardio, and more cardio. So I quickly also realized that I had to be in one of the best cardiovascular endurance shape to be able to summit Mount Everest. So this is 2 big realizations I had when I decided to embark on the journey to climb Mount Everest. Now someone has this question, how did you realize that this was your dream? And I will quickly go into that later on, maybe in about 20 or 30 minutes once I finish this piece. But just to tell you, so I embarked on this dream, and I knew that what I had to focus on was being in top physical fitness shape and being in top mental fitness state. But the journey always begins from being in top physical fitness shape. And whoever is hearing this webinar and is interested in climbing Everest, I have to tell you that without being in the best physical fitness shape of your life, you should not even think about climbing Mount Everest, or you should not even think about doing any of those big physical fitness feats in your life. Like, don't take any shortcuts in this journey. Building that solid foundation, building that solid physical fitness is like a given. If you are not doing that, you are not being just to yourself, you are not being just to your friends, you are not being just to your family members, you are not being just to any of the other co-climbers or the Sherpas on the mountain. So build that amazing solid physical fitness base, and from top of which you can launch into all your dreams. So briefly, a little bit about how I built my physical fitness for climbing Mount Everest. My physical fitness was divided into three portions. First portion was, as I initially said, building amazing amount of cardiovascular endurance. Second was ensuring that my body had enough strength, and third was, I will discuss that. Let me first get into how to build top cardiovascular endurance. Now for me, this sort of ended up being what kind of cardio activity I'm going to choose. There's everything from running to stair climbing to please specify what markers in physical fitness, and I will definitely do that. But first I'm just going to sort of jot down what kind of activities there I had to choose from. So it was essentially running, it was stair climbing, it was a lot of cycling, it was a lot of hiking, it could also have been mountain cycling, and it could be mountain hiking. Now, what I tell everyone who is getting into such a journey, or even journey into any other kind of physical fitness, you may be preparing for a sprinting event, you may be preparing for a marathon, you may be preparing for boxing, you may be preparing for any of the event. Please ensure that your training is really tailor-made to your event. Don't just go and crazily lift weights in the gym if your target is climbing mountains. Okay, so please ensure that your training is in alignment with your eventual dream or with your eventual activity. That is super, super important. So for me, because I wanted to get into high altitude mountaineering, my training had to be much more in alignment with my eventual dream. So I quickly realized that I enjoyed running, but not so much. I enjoyed cycling, not so much. And I did this for a while to create a solid foundation. Like running and cycling are great. I eventually also ended up doing a lot of stair climbing over a period of many years. But what I could finally sustain was doing a lot of mountaineering and doing a lot of hiking and doing a lot of trekking. So my primary cardio activity became my final activity as well. So it was climbing mountains, and my final activity was also climbing mountains. So to give you how a typical week looks like for me, in a 7-day week, I will end up climbing mountains for almost 4 days a week, even when I am living in Mumbai. About 2 hours away from Mumbai, there are these amazing Sahyadri mountains, and I end up spending a lot of time hiking and trekking and doing difficult climbs, doing difficult technical treks in these mountains. And that's how I sort of work on building a very, very solid cardiovascular base. Just to give you a sense, my training in the weekdays is very different than my training in the weekends. When I'm training in the weekdays, my training is focused on doing lower duration, higher intensity kind of a training. So let's say I'm doing a hike which is 2.5 hours, but then that is done at possibly an average heart rate of about 170 or something. And then when I'm working out in the weekends, it's a very high volume training, very high duration training. So essentially training for almost 10 hours, 12 hours, sometimes 16 hours, sometimes 18 hours. So that kind of a hike, but at a very lower average heart rate. Let's say about heart rate of about average of about 120. So these are completely two different kinds of trainings, working differently on my heart, working differently on my body. And this is primarily what cardio I do. Now, second is I had mentioned that I do a whole bunch of strength training. Uh, some part of my journey, I realized that without strength, if I'm just focusing on cardio, then at some point I will get injured, and that will not be very detrimental to my overall journey. So I started focusing a lot more even on building enough strength. Now, strength training doesn't mean that again I go to the gym and I crazily lift weights or I'm building a six pack. That's not something I'm doing. I'm just ensuring that I have head to toe fitness and that I'm working out all of the body parts of my body. So essentially my core, my lower back, my upper back, my neck, for example, my hip flexors, for example, my quads, my hamstrings, my calves, my ankles. So I'm like working out each and every part of my body under some kind of weight stress. It could be my body weight, or it could be light weights like a 3 kg dumbbell or a 5 kg dumbbell, or even a little more. It doesn't have to be like a 25 kg dumbbell, but just working out those parts of my body so that I'm building enough strength that's supporting my cardio endurance in the mountains and during my training. So these were two things that I primarily did throughout my fitness journey. Now, I had initially also said that I did something which was a third thing, and this is HIIT, which is high intensity interval training. Now, I quickly figured out that some of the best climbers in the world had a common trait in them, and this common trait was that they all had a resting heart rate of less than 40. Now, when I began my journey, my resting heart rate was 81 or 82 on average. And as I became fitter by going and hiking, by doing strength training, I was able to bring it down to about 67 or 68. But I still wanted my resting heart rate to go below 40. And how could I achieve that? So one of the techniques I figured out to achieve that was by doing a lot of high intensity interval training, and for about 2 years I did almost 2 to 3 workouts every single week in combination with my entire other schedule of doing high intensity training. And before I went on Everest for my final attempt in 2016, I had a resting heart rate of close to about 44. So I was able to achieve fitness, physical fitness mostly by using two techniques, that is being consistent over a long period of time and by being disciplined. So for everyone who is listening in, I have to tell you this: if you are looking out for any magic bullet, if you are looking for that one tablet that you can eat to gain fitness or lose fat or to build muscle, let me tell you that there is no such tablet, there is no such magical technique, there is no such shortcut. The only way to build muscle, the only way to lose fat, the only way to build physical fitness is consistency and discipline over a long period of time, and being very focused and very smart in terms of the workouts you are doing. So your workouts have to be very much in alignment with your final goal. As I said in the beginning, if your final goal is climbing mountains, but your workouts is building a very bulky body with a lot of muscle, those simply are not in alignment. Because when you are at high altitude, your muscles require oxygen to survive, and at high altitude there is simply no oxygen to survive. So you have to build a very balanced body when you are climbing on high altitude mountains, and your training has to be done accordingly. So now I'm going to answer the question that Deepa asked. please specify what markers in physical fitness. Now, it's very tricky to sort of set some benchmark or set some marker in terms of that, hey, मैंने इतना किया, or hey, I have done so much, and that I should be ready to climb Everest. Now, typically the way I see things is most people are either runners or most people are, cyclists. If you can run, let's say, a half marathon in less than, I would say, about 1 hour 45 minutes. If you can already do that, then you are at a good foundation base to launch your training for climbing Mount Everest. By running a half marathon in a certain timing or by cycling in a certain timing doesn't mean that you will be able to climb Mount Everest. It's just, I'm saying that it will be a solid base to climb Mount Everest. For example, I started out being a couch potato and being highly obese and being highly overweight before I went and climbed Mount Everest. So for me, the physical fitness journey was a lot longer. So, which would be shortened for you. Let's say if you are already at a very good physical fitness state, then maybe it may just take you 2 or 3 years to get ready to climb Mount Everest. For me, it took almost 6 years to get ready to climb Mount Everest. So just a different journey, but ensure that you are not compromising in any way in terms of getting physically fit. Now, someone here is saying, yes, discipline is one of the key factors for successful journey in sports. 100% discipline is super important, not just in sports. I think also in life, also in your professional career, also in your corporate career, also in any career that you have in your life. Now I'm going to move to the second piece, which is building mental fitness. And I personally feel this is a much harder journey than physical fitness, because in physical fitness you can get a mentor, you can go on YouTube and look at certain videos and sort of start working on building the physical fitness, and there is some sort of a blueprint that is available that you can follow to build that kind of a physical fitness. But for mental fitness, there is absolutely no blueprint available whatsoever. So it's a much trickier journey to build that mental fitness. For me, the way I started building mental fitness or started realizing that I'm building mental fitness is when I started pushing myself in my physical fitness workouts. So just to give you an example, a typical workout for me could be climbing 300 floors up and climbing 300 floors down. Now, how could I do this? Well, my building is 5 floors tall. So if I am climbing my buildings up and down for let's say about 60 times, and I have climbed 300 floors. Now someone is I will interrupt for a second. Someone is asking any specific diet followed, and I will get into that. But let's say if I'm going up and down 60 times, that is about 300 floors. That could be a typical workout for me. Or let's say I'm doing about 100 burpees in less than about 12 minutes. So that could be another typical workout for me. So after I've finished such a workout and when I'm feeling super tired, where my body does not have anything to give or my body does not have more to work out, I have to push myself to do something more. So in that situation, I will tell myself that let's do 50 floors more. Now my body simply does not have that, but my mind is going to instruct my body that Kuntal, you have to do this. And when I started doing that the first time, I was able to do 20, I was able to do 30 floors. I was not able to do 50 floors. Eventually I got to a point where I was able to do 50 floors more, and that's where my mind started instructing my physical body when it did not have that endurance or it did not have that strength, or it thought that it did not have that, to be able to push and do those things. So by pushing myself in my physical fitness workouts, I was able to build that mental edge. So that was like the first way of building mental fitness. The second way was by overcoming my fears. Now, the guy who wanted to climb to the top of Mount Everest also was fearful of heights. So if I would was standing on the fifth floor of a building, and if I would look down, then I had like a big fear. I had like a big phobia of heights, and I quickly realized that if I had this kind of a fear, then how am I going to climb Everest, where I have to be hanging off 90-degree walls that are not 50 feet tall or not 100 feet tall, that are 3,000 feet tall. How am I going to stand or climb a 3,000 feet top wall when I can't even look down from a 5-floor building? So I quickly realized that if I was able to overcome my fears and better manage my fears over a long period of time, then that would also add to my mental stamina. So that is something that I consciously had to build as I went through this journey of 6 years. And so this is small things that I did to create physical and mental fitness to go and eventually climb Everest. Now, one thing that I missed out in describing in this overall thing is to build technical fitness, which is learning technical skills to be able to reliably and safely navigate the mountains and the mountain terrain. I have to tell everyone that it is super important that you are a reliable and a strong mountaineer when you are part of a team. And for that, you have to ensure that you have the right skills and that you have practiced those skills over and over and over again over a long duration of time in the mountains. So it's not like suddenly you are now physically fit, you have also built some mental fitness, and then you're going to climb Everest. No. Alongside, you also have to ensure that you are building skills, that you are building and that you are practicing those skills. It's not just I went and did a mountaineering course and now I'm going to climb Everest. No. You have done a mountaineering course, then you should be practicing those skills over a period of time in the mountains. And there are multiple kinds of mountaineering courses. There is a basic course, there is an advanced course. So a sort of a small blueprint for everyone who is listening into this of how you can climb Everest or how you can climb any other big mountain in life is you would start building a physical fitness base. On the side, you would do a mountaineering course. You would then come and practice those mountaineering course skills over by climbing a few mountains. Alongside, you are continuing to build your physical fitness and mental fitness. After you have climbed a few mountains, you can do an advanced mountaineering course, and then you go through the same process of continuing to build your physical mental fitness and practicing those skills on the mountains. And then you sort of slowly, once it's been about 2 or 3 years that you have climbed a few mountains, you have built physical fitness, you have built mental fitness. At that point, you are ready to possibly climb a mountain like Everest. So that's the sort of journey that you should be taking. This was about my physical fitness, about my mental fitness, about my my skills-based fitness. Now I'm going to come into diet, and then I'm going to just sort of take any questions that are with the audience. Now for last 18 years I have been a vegan, that is I follow a plant-based diet. Now I don't eat anything that comes from an animal, so no meat, no eggs, no dairy or dairy products. So I don't eat any ghee, doodh, dahi, butter, cheese, paneer, and this has been my diet for almost 10 years now, for almost 18 years now. Now, when I decided in 2010 that I was going to summit Mount Everest, or that is my dream of climbing Everest, and I told my expedition leader that I'm going to do so, his point was that as a vegan, you simply cannot do it. Eating meat, eating eggs, and eating dairy is an absolute must for climbing Mount Everest. And I know of many friends who have climbed Mount Everest who are vegetarians, hardcore vegetarians, and their expedition leaders also told them the same thing. They eventually ended up eating meat eating dairy, eating eggs, and eating a lot of those things and going and climbing Mount Everest. But I have to tell everyone here that if you are planning to climb Everest as a vegetarian or as a vegan like me, it is absolutely 100% possible. For me, vegan diet or plant-based diet was never a hindrance throughout my entire journey of building physical fitness, of building mental fitness, and also going and being part of many mountaineering expeditions and climbing mountains. What I do want to tell everyone here is that if you are climbing Everest as a vegan, you have to ensure that you are being smart about it and that you are preparing and planning well for it. Without planning and preparation, you will struggle a lot and you will not be able to climb this mountain. So, planning and preparation in terms of, for example, most expedition agencies don't know what veganism means or what vegan food means. So, I had to work with them really hard to make them understand what vegan food is and how to cook vegan food, and to tell everyone that vegan food is very, very, very simple. Roti, sabji, dal, rice, which is a typical diet for entire India, it is by default vegan. If you don't put any ghee or butter in your roti, sabji and dal and bhat, then it is already vegan. So as long as you are eating a nice, well-balanced diet, you will be fine. And I was able to figure out ways to make all of those things on the mountain as well. Now Vipul is asking, did you supplement to support your diet? I did supplement to support my diet, and I will tell you what supplements I specifically used. I used vitamin B12, I used vitamin D3, and I ended up using some form of protein powder as well, but vegan protein powder. Vegan diet, or for that matter even vegetarian diet, or for that matter even a lot of non-vegetarians today are deficient in vitamin B12. So everyone listening into this webinar, ensure that you have gotten yourself tested for vitamin B12 and vitamin D3. And if you are lacking in these, if your numbers are in deficiency, then please make sure that you are supplementing these. Vitamin B12, vitamin D3 are super important for any discipline in any sport. Okay, not just mountaineering or not just climbing. Even if you are a sprinter, even if you are a basketball player, even if you are a badminton player or a wrestler, B12 and D3 are some of the most important vitamins that are today difficult to get from your food. So ensure that you are supplementing and your numbers are at an optimum level. So those are the two supplements that I took and I have been taking for the last 18 years, and I get myself tested once a year to ensure that I am not lacking in any of those vitamins, those important vitamins that help with my nerve health, that help with my cell health. So in addition, I also use some vegan protein powder on a day-to-day basis. The reason is that every athlete, for example, I am an endurance athlete and my body weight is about 80 kgs. So for 80 kgs, I need at least 1.4 to 1.6 grams of protein per my body weight in kilo on a daily basis. Now that is about 120 to 130 grams of protein that I need every day. Sometimes what can happen is that it could be difficult to get that kind of protein on a daily basis just by eating my regular food. So only for convenience purposes, I will add a scoop or two of protein powder every day. If I'm smart and if I'm willing to put in time, I can most definitely get all those 120 calories by eating plants, but it can be very tricky and I would have to eat in a lot of quantity. So just for some convenience purpose on a day-to-day basis, I will add 1 or 2 scoops of protein powder so that I'm getting at least about 50 to 55 grams of protein from protein powder, and then the balance 70 or 75 grams from my food that I'm eating, whole foods. I could be eating like a khichdi, or I could be eating like an oatmeal, or I could be eating like a spaghetti with tofu. So a whole bunch of things that I could be eating and getting my protein from my meals, and then supplementing some with my protein powder. So whoever is on this podcast or on this webinar, one thing that I constantly hear from everyone is that protein powder is unnatural form of protein. Protein powder is all chemicals. Now, I'm not going to talk about non-vegan protein powders. I'm just going to talk about vegan protein powders. Most of the vegan protein powders are either made from soya protein, or peanut protein, or pea protein, or rice protein. So please, it is not unnatural, it is not a chemical. Instead of eating soya directly, which could be in form of soya chunks or any other thing, or instead of eating pea protein directly in form of maybe eating lentils or eating beans or eating peas, you are just eating them in a form of a powder. So frankly speaking, don't let anyone tell you that this is any unnatural thing that you are putting in your body. A protein powder is as natural as eating your regular paratha, sabji, rice and all of those things. So just ensure that you are smartly choosing your protein powder, that it is very simple, the ingredient list is very simple, that it does not have too much sugar in it, that it does not have too many preservatives in it. So just a very simple protein powder which only has protein as its ingredients. That's about it. So that is something that was about my diet, a little bit about it. Now someone is asking me that at what age did I summit first. So when I summited first, I was 36 years old. I started my dream at the age of 29, truly speaking. So another question that I get constantly is that, is there any age or anything for a mountaineer? So I would say that a typical average age of a high altitude mountaineer is around 43 or 44. That is when you are at your peak. But please remember that there is no such age. If you are staying healthy, if you are staying active, if you are staying fit, if you are putting the right things in your body, and you are staying fit and you are staying active, you can climb mountains even when you are 70, even when you are 75. In 2018, I climbed a mountain called Lhotse, which is the fourth highest mountain of the world. And we had a guy called Matsumoto from Japan who was part of our team. Matsumoto was 79 years old in age. So if someone is telling you that you can't climb these big mountains or you can't get into mountaineering at an age of 50 or at an age of 60, then that is all nonsense. You can do mountaineering or you can pursue any sports you want for that matter at any age that you want. It's just about the right training and about the right mindset. Of course, maybe at 79 you may not have the kind of body that may allow you to compete professionally in a sport, but most definitely you can do that sport for recreation. And mountaineering is not a very competitive or a very professional sport, so there's no real competition there. You are only competing with yourself. You are only competing with your own limitations. You are only competing with your own self-doubts that you have, and you are trying to overcome those on the mountain. So there's no competition in the mountains between two people, but it's just competition with your own self that you have on the mountain. So mountaineering is a great sport for anyone who wants to take it. Now also at the same time, there is a lower limit of the age. So if you are 12 or 13 years old and if you are going and climbing Mount Everest, I don't know. For myself, when I remember I was 12 years old, I don't even remember most of my life from 12 years old. I don't even remember if I would truly understand what climbing Mount Everest is about or truly understand what a journey I am going on. So I would personally think that if you are 24, 25 years old, when you understand a lot more about the world and you understand a lot more about journeys, you truly value those kind of things, I think at that point you should probably start doing a lot of these things seriously. Before that, you could possibly focus on building that physical fitness, that mental fitness, and maybe climbing smaller mountains. Now, someone had also asked, how did I get into this journey? So, I'm going to answer that question and any other questions that are coming in from the audience. But it was a very, very by chance incident that I discovered that climbing Everest is the biggest dream of my life. Now, my wife Dipti and I had gone to Shimla, and we wanted to see some snow. That was the sole objective of our entire trip, and we had gone in the winters because we thought that winter mein jayenge to barf giregi and we'll be able to see some snow, and that would be like really an enjoyable moment. So we were in Shimla, and for the 6 days we didn't see any snow. So on 7th day we went to do this trek called Hatu Peak, and when we got to the top of Hatu Peak, we were surrounded by all the snow mountains. We were in knee-deep snow. That is the moment something changed in me. That is the moment when I truly felt alive, when I truly felt that pure happiness, and I decided that for the rest of my life, I want to chase that state of mind where I truly felt alive. And for the next 1.5 years, I ended up doing a lot of treks, and every single time I got to the top of that trek, I felt exactly the same thing. Eventually, I signed up for Everest Base Camp. Took me about 10 days to walk to Everest Base Camp. And on one of the evenings when I saw Everest, the last rays of sunset were falling on Everest. Every other mountain was in the color of grey and blue. And when I saw Everest like that for the first time in my life, that is truly when I discovered my dream. And I promised myself that as much impossible as it seems right now, I will come back one day and I will climb to the top of Everest. So that's just a very short story of how I discovered my dream. Which were our major peaks before I did Mount Everest? Any summits before actually climbing Mount Everest? Yes. So I ended up climbing almost about 10 plus 6,000 meter mountains in the Ladakh and the Nepal Himalaya. These were my peaks like Stoke Kangri, Mentok Kangri, Chamsher Kangri, a couple of peaks in Uttarakhand. I ended up doing almost 20 plus treks of about 5,000 meters plus. These were tough technical treks in Uttarakhand, and then I ended up doing almost about short one day hikes in the Sahyadri, almost about 400 such hikes in the Sahyadri. I ended up climbing a peak called Island Peak in Nepal. I ended up making attempts on two 7,000 meter mountains. 7,000 meters is about 23,000 feet. These were failed attempts, but believe me that you learn a lot from your failures than you would from your success. So once I had climbed about 10 6,000 meter mountains, attempted two 7,000 meter mountains, and I had done about 400 plus small day hikes in the Sahyadri mountains. At that point, from internally, I felt that I was ready to climb Mount Everest. So I made my first attempt to climb Mount Everest in 2014. Unfortunately, that was a failed attempt because 17 Sherpa guides died and my attempt was cancelled. All the expeditions were cancelled. I had to come back home. In 2014 October, I went and I climbed an 8,000 meter mountain called Mount Manasalu, which is the 8th highest mountain in the world, and I ended up summiting that mountain. I was back then the second civilian to summit Mount Manaslu from India. And once I had climbed an 8,000 meter mountain, once I had internally realized or felt how it feels in the death zone, I knew that climbing Everest was only a matter of when, not a matter of how. Okay, so I did a lot of groundwork before I eventually went and I summited Mount Everest. Today I see a lot of people who climb Stoke Kangri or who do one small trek in Uttarakhand and then they say that अब मैं Everest चढ़ने वाला हूँ. A lot of those people end up losing their fingers, end up losing their toes to frostbite, they end up having bad lung infections, they end up having bad brain infections, or many of them even end up dying on the mountain. Just to give you a sense, last year 35 Indians got into trouble on Everest. These Indians lost their fingers, these Indians lost their toes, they had lung infections, they had brain infections, and even 4 Indians ended up dying on Everest last year. So it is very, very important that you gradually go into your journey, as Sunil rightly mentions over here, doing 5,000 meters first, then graduating to 6,000, eventually 7,000, a smaller 8,000, and finally climbing to the top of the world. That step-by-step journey without shortcuts is what is going to create success for you on Everest and also in life. Just to give you an example of Usain Bolt, does anyone on this webinar think that Usain Bolt just woke up one day and became Usain Bolt and just created that record of 9.53? I simply don't think that is how it happened. Behind that Usain Bolt ka 9.53 world record timing is 20 years of consistency and discipline and crazy amount of hard work. So if you want to reach the top of the world in any discipline of the sport that you are in, that is the kind of consistency, discipline and hard work that you are going to require. So please don't compromise, because it is your own dream. किसी और का ड्रीम नहीं है, खुद का ड्रीम है. So it's important that you give yourself the best chance, the best opportunity to get to the top of your dream. So yeah, that's a sort of brief about my physical fitness, mental fitness, technical fitness, and what I eat, and a little bit about how I found out my dream. So if there are any more questions from the audience, I'll be happy to answer. And again, a sincere most apologies from my side that I was a little delayed in joining the webinar. Yes, Tanvi is mentioning 20 years of hard work for 9 seconds. That is absolutely correct. 20 years of hard work for 9 seconds. That's what Usain Bolt is. For me, I climbed Everest the first time in 2016. I climbed it the second time in 2019. So it was 10 years of hard work for 5 minutes on the top of Mount Everest. That is the kind of journey I went through. And I think a lot of sports people would realize that you have to go through that long kind of a journey. Another question that Sunil is asking is, which is the toughest part of your climb? So I'm going to take that question, and then there's one more thing that Sunil is saying is that acclimatization is important for the summit. So I have to tell you that a typical Everest climb is about 55 to 60 days. So you are almost 2 months on the mountain before you actually reach the summit. And one of the biggest reasons that is because your body has to be acclimatized to the various altitudes on the mountain. Everest is at 29,000 feet, and the air pressure on top of Everest is just 30% of what is it at sea level, which means that you are only getting 30% oxygen as opposed to what is at sea level when you are on top of Everest. If I put any one of you on top of Everest right now, you will die within 5 minutes. The lack of oxygen will cause all your organs to fail. You will get a massive heart attack and you will die. The reason is because your body can't adapt to the lack of oxygen or lack of air pressure on the mountain. This is one of the biggest reasons why you need to acclimatize and you need to move slowly on the mountain and get to the top. Which is the toughest part of the climb, and what is the most dangerous event that you can share of climbing Everest? Well, for me, the most dangerous event has to be from 2015 when I was climbing Everest for the second time. And I still remember that 7.9 magnitude earthquake hit Nepal. This was the largest earthquake to hit Nepal in a century, and I was bang in middle of the earthquake. That earthquake also induced a gigantic avalanche from a mountain that hit the entire base camp. Believe me, when I saw that avalanche for the first time, from left of the sky to the right of the sky, that avalanche filled the entire sky and was coming towards us like a giant tsunami of snow and ice. Imagine a tsunami wave of 12-13 meters. This was a tsunami of almost 500-meter wave with tons of snow, ice, rocks, and a lot of debris coming towards us. In that time, frankly speaking, when it was 3 seconds away from us, I did not think that I was going to die. I mean, I didn't think that I was going to die. I was actually 100% certain that I was going to die. So I survived that earthquake. I survived that avalanche. I was super lucky because 50 feet away from me, there was a team where there were 5 people who ended up dying. 21 died at the base camp that day. 100 got injured badly. So a very, very lucky thing that I am alive today. Have you ever thought of trying the Andes? I have already climbed in the Andes. In the month of February, I climbed the tallest mountain in South America, which is Aconcagua, which I believe is part of Andes. So I have already climbed to the tallest mountain in the Andes and have looked at that area as well. What is the average that one needs to invest in an expedition? I'm going to talk about Everest. A typical Everest climb is going to be anywhere between 25 to 30 lakh rupees, depending on what kind of adventure agency you go with. Your gear itself, meaning the gear you wear, like your suit, like your sleeping bag, like your boots, like your crampons and all that gear, that is going to cost on average anywhere between 3 to 5 lakh rupees. And then your training expeditions, meaning the smaller expeditions of 6,000 meter mountains and all the expeditions that you will do over a period of maybe 2-3 years, that's going to cost about 5 to 7 lakh another rupees. So a typical Everest expedition will finally cost you almost about 40 lakh rupees. And on top of that, the amount of leaves that you are going to take from work, the amount of time you are going to spend on your physical fitness, it is going to be a lot of hours. I calculated my own hours, and between 2009 and 2020, I have spent more than 10,000 hours just training for climbing Everest. Forget the amount of time that I have spent actually climbing on the mountain. Just in my training, I have spent more than 10,000 plus hours. Are you conducting mountaineering for kids and teenagers? Absolutely. I'm always happy to be the catalyst or be the mentor in someone else's journey. So you can always reach out to me over a personal message, and I would be happy to help guide you folks. The average dangerous event. So my dangerous event and my most challenging event was both the same, the 2015 expedition from which I came out alive. For anyone who wants to see what happened in 2015, if you go on YouTube and if you type Everest avalanche, you will see a video which has 24 million views. That video features me, and you can see the first hand footage of what happened in that year. It is crazy. I'm just grateful that I'm alive today, and I'm alive and I'm able to share my story with you. Even if I was just 50 feet on the right, you would be reading about me in the papers. Kuntal Joisher from Mumbai dead in the Everest avalanche. That's what would have happened. I'm just sheerly lucky to be alive and sharing my story with you. How did I prepare myself knowing that things could go wrong? This is the last question I will take because I know it's already 12:30. Now, when I discovered my Everest dream, from the next day onwards, imagine waking up and the first thing in front of your eyes is Everest. Imagine going to work and starting your computer, but on the screen you are just seeing Everest. Imagine eating your food but seeing Everest in your roti. Imagine coming home and talking to your wife but nothing else making sense other than Everest. Imagine going to sleep and only dreaming about Everest. My life had become an obsession around my dream, an obsession around Everest. And frankly speaking, if you are not obsessed about your dream and a dream like Everest, where you can 100% die and you need that level of focus, you need that level of obsession, you will not succeed in your dream. And when your dream is at that level, frankly speaking, you mentally don't have to do a lot of things. Negative thoughts never enter your mind and you are so focused on your dream. वो घोड़ा होता है ना जिसको blinders होते हैं, you are that horse with that blinders. The only thing that you can see is your summit and your dream, and you will do everything possible to make that dream come into reality. You will do everything, mental training, physical training, technical training, you will do everything to give yourself the best shot to getting to the top of your dream. And the last question is, what are the summits happening ahead? I am on an endeavor to climb the 7 tallest mountains in the 7 tallest continents of the world. It is called the 7 Summits Endeavor. I have already climbed Everest. I have already climbed Kilimanjaro in Africa. I have already climbed Aconcagua in South America. The next mountain that I am going to climb is Denali in North America. This will happen in 2021. I sincerely hope that as humanity we can figure out a solution for COVID-19 so that everyone can go back to their regular lives, the economies can get restarted, or more than anything, I just sincerely hope people stop dying or people stop getting infected by this virus, and that everyone is healthy and fine, and that everyone can lead a normal lives without having to worry about this situation. So that is my biggest hope, and if everything is fine, then, and if I can responsibly and safely go and climb mountains, then my first mountain of choice is Denali in Alaska in North America in May of 2021. So that's currently on my agenda, and my current focus that I am at home right now is to just stay fit and just stay healthy and just continuously work on my physical fitness. Even though my mountain is 1 year away, I have to constantly stay fit and constantly stay in the top shape of my life. So that's what I'm doing right now, and that's what I continue hope doing. Thank you everyone for all your best wishes. I hope to finish the 7 Summits endeavor, and I hope to come back and share my experiences with you all again on a live session after I have completed my endeavor. So thank you for inviting me to share my experiences, and really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you so much again. So if there are no questions, then I will end this session, and if you have any questions, please write to me in person, on my WhatsApp, on my Messenger, anywhere. I'll be happy to guide you and share all my learnings, and frankly speaking, please write to me. Yes, catch you again after Denali. Thank you so much again.